Hey guys, tonight we take a stroll through the dim, oddly quiet streets of Duskhaven, a sleepy little town where the glow of a street lamp isn't just eerie, it's forbidden. Well, not the glow itself, no. The glow is allowed. But you? You're not allowed to sleep under it. No, really. Curling up beneath a streetlight in Duskhaven isn't just frowned upon, it's downright illegal. You probably won't survive this story without checking if your bedroom light is off. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, drop your location and the local time in the comments. I'd love to know where and when you're listening from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You arrive just past dusk. Duskhaven isn't marked on most maps anymore. The bus drops you off near a wooden sign half swallowed by ivy. It reads simply, Duskhaven, established. Ayratte wonder beneath it, carved more recently and with slightly unhinged energy. Stay out of the light. You'd think it's a joke. The main street is quiet, too quiet. Not eerie in the usual way, though. It's more like expectant. Every porch light is off, every street lamp glows on schedule. But oddly, no one's around. The sidewalks are empty. A cat dozes beneath a bench, just outside the cone of golden light cast by a lamppost. You keep walking, the wheels of your carry-on thudding softly over cobblestones. Your eyes drift up to the lights, old-fashioned iron posts with globes that hum faintly. There's a peculiar warmth to their glow, like they're trying to seem welcoming. You could almost lie down right there, just under that gentle halo, and drift off. You've had a long trip. You're tired. But you hesitate. Something in the stillness stops you. The buildings lining the street are squat and weather-worn. An old barber shop, a general store, a church with a tilted steeple. Nothing fancy. But every window is shuttered. Not a single flicker inside. It's only 8:15 p.m., but it feels like the town has already gone to sleep, or fled. You reach the inn. It's the only place still open, its windows glowing with a soft amber light. The painted sign creaks overhead. The Still Lantern Inn. The name feels ironic already. Inside, it smells like cinnamon, old rugs, and something faintly floral. Behind the counter sits an elderly woman with a face like melted wax and eyes that do not blink nearly enough. "You're late," she says, before you even speak. You smile awkwardly and give your name. "Room's ready. Second floor, end of the hall. Don't dawdle. And whatever you do." She leans in, her breath cinnamon sour and serious. "Don't sleep under the street lights." You raise your eyebrows. Is she joking? She is not. "There are places to sleep," she says, handing you a key with the number 12 carved into a chunk of wood. "And there are places not to. Learn the difference or you'll learn regret." You want to ask more, but she turns away, busying herself with something behind the desk, dusting nothing in particular, humming a hymn with no tune. You make your way to the room, your thoughts trailing behind you like the hem of a heavy robe. That night, you can't sleep. Maybe it's the silence, absolute and unmoving. Maybe it's the lamp outside your window, casting long shadows on the ceiling in rhythm with the swaying branches. Or maybe it's the words of the innkeeper, stuck to your brain like cobwebs. Don't sleep under the street lights. You get up. You press your forehead against the cool glass and peer out. The town is completely still. No cars, no night owls, just the lampposts, standing sentinel, one at every corner, one in front of every shop, perfectly spaced. And under none of them, absolutely none, is there a single person. It feels unnatural. You notice something then. Across the street, near a bench under a lamp, there's a sign. You hadn't seen it earlier. It's small, nailed to a post low to the ground, almost like it doesn't want to be noticed. You squint, but can't read it from your room. You dress again and tiptoe down the stairs. The innkeeper is gone. Outside, the air is crisp. Not cold, just enough to wake you up. You cross the street. The sign reads, "Sleeping beneath public illumination is strictly prohibited. City Ordinance 73-D. Violators will be fined." That's it. Nothing more. Not even an amount. You stand there baffled. What kind of town makes it illegal to sleep under a light? Why? You glance up at the lamp above you. It's flickering slightly now. And for just a second, barely a blink, it hums louder, warmer, then settles. Something inside you whispers, "Go back." But you don't. Not yet. You sit on the bench, still outside the official glow zone, just watching, listening. The lamp makes a low buzzing noise, the way streetlights sometimes do. Comforting, like a bee trapped in a snow globe. You inch forward. One leg stretches into the light, then the other. You close your eyes, just for a second. And that's when you hear the first footstep. Not from ahead, not from behind, but from above. It's soft, like cloth brushing against brick. You jerk upright, heart thudding. You look up. The lamplight is undisturbed. The street is empty. But in a second-floor window of the building beside you, you see the flick of a curtain and a face watching. Then it vanishes. You decide it's time to go back inside. As you step away from the lamplight, you notice something else. Carved into the pole, deep but old, like from a pocket knife years ago, are the words, "He sleeps still," whatever that means. Back in your room, you lie awake, listening to the silence outside, wondering if you imagined it all. But sleep won't come. Not easily. Not under that light. You wake up late the next morning, though it's hard to tell. The curtains in your room are heavy, the kind meant to shut out more than sunlight. They muffle sound. They trap the air. And when you finally pull them aside, you find a sky like stale milk, clouded, pale, uncertain. Downstairs, the innkeeper pours you tea before you can even ask. It's already steeped and cooled slightly, as if she somehow knew exactly when you'd wake. She says nothing, just slides the cup towards you and resumes knitting what looks like a small black cap for a squirrel. You stir your tea. Then you ask it, the question that's been itching at your brain since last night. Why is it illegal to sleep under streetlights? She doesn't look up. Because that's how he finds you. You blink. Who? The lamplighter, she says, still knitting. But that's just one of the stories. The law is older than that tale. Most folks don't remember where it started. But the law stays. Always has. You press again. But who enforces it? What's the real reason? She finally looks up at you. "Sweetheart," she says, "you think there's such a thing as a real reason for anything that weird?" Before you can ask more, the door creaks open and a man walks in. Tall, stiff posture, long gray coat. Not a sheriff, not quite. But official somehow. He nods at the innkeeper. "Mornin', Miss Ardella." "Mornin', deputy." "Deputy." That explains the coat. He glances at you, then back at her. "Any guests out past curfew last night?" She shakes her head. "Just a little fresh air. Nothing under the light." He eyes you again, longer this time. "You visiting?" You nod. "Just passing through." "Then pass through quick," he says with a tight smile. This town ain't built for lingering. He leaves. The bell above the door barely jingles. Miss Ardella watches him go, her needles pausing. They don't ticket visitors. First night's always forgiven. But don't test 'em, not twice. You sip your tea. It tastes like cinnamon bark and something bitter underneath. Not poison bitter, just truth bitter. You spend the day walking the town. Duskhaven's streets are straight and old. Everything has a faded dignity to it, like a wedding photo left in the sun too long. You pass the apothecary, the old schoolhouse now boarded up, a playground with swings that creak even when there's no wind. The town square has a dry fountain, its base ringed with flower beds growing nothing but weeds. But the streetlights, they are immaculate. No rust, no cracked bulbs. Each pole perfectly painted. The globes clean, humming softly even during the day. You sit on a bench in the square, well outside the glow of any lamp, and watch the townsfolk move. Or rather, avoid moving. No one lingers. Children play only in the shade. A man with a sandwich sits under a tree, carefully positioning himself to avoid the lamplight bleeding through the leaves. And every person who walks past a streetlight, every single one, glances up at it, as if checking, as if timing. You ask an old man at the bakery counter about it. He shakes his head. Don't talk about it. Don't even think about it too much. Law's a law, keeps the peace. But why that law? He frowns. Some places got laws about jaywalking. Some got laws about what color you can paint your mailbox. We got this. And folks still sleep safe at night, don't they? You want to point out how unsafe everything actually feels, but he's already turned his back. Back at the inn, you decide to test the waters. You borrow a folding chair from the porch and drag it across the street just as twilight falls. You set it precisely outside the circle of light under a tall black lamppost. Then you take one step forward, just enough so your left shoe breaks the edge of the light. You wait. Nothing happens. Another step. Your legs are now lit. Your arms, chest. The warm golden beam settles over your shoulders like a weighted blanket. Comforting. You tilt your head back and stare straight up into the glowing orb. It hums louder now. You imagine you can hear a heartbeat in it. And that's when someone coughs behind you. You jump. The deputy stands 10 feet away, hands in his coat pockets. I thought I told you to pass through quick. I'm just sitting. City Code 73-D, he says flatly. No sleeping beneath public illumination. That means don't tempt it. I'm not asleep. But you look like you want to be. That's enough. He pulls out a notepad and scribbles something down. You expect a ticket. Instead, he tears off the page and holds it out. You take it. It reads, "Second warning. Final is permanent." You glance up. Is this supposed to be a threat? He leans in close. It's not my threat. Then he walks away. You don't sleep that night. Your dreams when they come are full of slow footsteps and the flicker of light through half-closed eyes. In one dream, you're lying beneath a lamppost, unable to move. You try to blink, but the light pins your eyes open. A figure approaches, shrouded in smoke and rust-colored cloth. His boots don't touch the ground. He whispers your name over and over. When you wake, you're not sure if it's morning. The light from the window is still the same. Stale milk, thick with static, and you notice something new. On your pillow is a single burned-out match. You didn't light anything, but someone, or something, Wanted you to know what happens when the light dies. You're done with hints. If there's one thing Duskhaven has taught you, it's that vague warnings and sideways glances will only get you so far. You need facts, answers, something with ink and dates and names. Not folklore whispered by innkeepers and bakery men with powdered sugar on their chins. So after a lukewarm breakfast and a second cup of cinnamon bitter tea, you head for the town's administrative building, or what passes for it. A short brick structure off the square. It looks like it once housed a post office, a courthouse, and a dog grooming salon all at once. The plaque by the door says Town Hall, Records and History. You push inside. It smells like paper, floor polish, and the unsettling trace of old candles long since melted into the cracks of things. The only person in sight is a woman behind a tall wooden desk, her glasses hanging from a chain, her expression the perfect cocktail of suspicion and boredom. "I'd like to look up a town ordinance," you say. She raises an eyebrow. "Which one?" "City Code 73-D. Her hand freezes above a file drawer. "Why?" "Curiosity," you say, attempting a smile. She holds your gaze for a beat too long. Then she sighs, mutters something that might be, "Lord help the curious," and disappears into a back room. You hear metal drawers slide, paper rustle, a muffled sneeze. When she returns, she drops a manila folder in front of you. "You read it here. No photocopies, no photos, and no notes." You blink. "No notes?" She shrugs. "The law's the law." Inside the folder is a single page, crisp but yellowed with age, typed, signed, dated March 3rd, 1912. It reads, City Code 73-D. Due to the events of the 28th of February, the Council enacts the following statute: that no individual shall sleep, doze, nap, or recline in a manner suggestive of sleep beneath, adjacent to, or within the effective radius of any municipal lamppost or gaslight fixture, public or semi-public. Infractions will result in penalties determined appropriate by local authorities. Enforcement to begin immediately. Duration: indefinite. Filed by order of Mayor Ellison B. Carrick. That's it. No details about what happened on the 28th. No names, no stories. Just due to the events? You ask the woman at the desk. She snorts. That's sealed. You'll have to request special access to the town archives. How do I do that? You don't, she says. Only council members are granted clearance. And we haven't had a full council since 92. 1992? Number 1992. You blink. How is that even possible? She shrugs. Welcome to Duskhaven. Still, the page burns in your memory, not because of what it says, but because of what it doesn't. You leave the building with a new kind of itch. One only old records can scratch. Luckily, Miss Ardella knows things. That night, you catch her on the porch, rocking slowly, knitting a scarf the length of a funeral procession. You show her what you remember from the ordinance. Her needles don't stop moving. 28th of February, she says, like she's tasting the words. That'd be the year the storm came. What storm? Lightning like spears, wind that peeled roofs like fruit skins. Power flickered out, every candle blown cold, except the streetlights. Them old gas lamps didn't so much as flicker. She stops knitting. Then, morning after, we found him. You wait. A man, curled up under the west post on Rayleigh Street, dead. Eyes wide open, skin cold. Not a mark on him. Just gone. Heart attack? Would have made sense. But then it happened again, and again. You stare at her. How many? She knits a row in silence. Enough, she says. You head to Rayleigh Street the next day. It's not easy to find. The map outside Town Hall doesn't list it anymore, but the bookstore owner mutters directions under his breath, then pretends he never saw you. Rayleigh Street is only 4 blocks long, dead ends at both sides. But the west post is still there, tall, bent just slightly at the top, as if bowing. The bulb looks newer than the others, maybe replaced, maybe not. At its base is a stone marker no bigger than a shoebox, covered in ivy. You pull it back and find a name. Leon Curtis, 1872 to 1912. He dreamt too close to the light. It's not official, not part of any municipal program. Someone carved that stone by hand. You don't know what to feel. There's no record of Curtis in the hall, no family name listed in town, no obituary in the faded papers. It's like he existed only to be buried at the foot of that lamppost. But his death, his sleep, is what sparked the law. You sit down on the curb, just outside the ring of light. You stare up at the bulb. It hums. It always hums. But tonight, the sound is musical. Not a tune, exactly, but almost a rhythm. Breathing, maybe. A lullaby with no melody, meant to draw something out of you, or in. Your eyelids get heavy. You lean back. Your head tips into the edge of the light, and the cold hits you like a slap. You lurch forward. The light above you sputters once, briefly, and for a heartbeat, you swear it casts not your shadow but someone else's. Tall, watching, waiting. You leave Rayleigh Street in a hurry. Back at the inn, the fire is already lit. Miss Ardella hands you a cup of tea before you even ask. She doesn't say a word, but when you drink it, you taste something different. Ashes. You don't plan to spend another night in Duskhaven. You pack after midnight, quietly, carefully, as if the very floorboards might betray your intent. The bag zips louder than expected, and you flinch. Even the lamp in your room seems to buzz in disapproval. But you're done with tea, done with whispers, and done with the suffocating dread that blooms under every streetlight. Except you pause, because part of you needs to know, not just why the law exists, but who it truly protects, or punishes. You decide to take one more walk before you leave. Just one. No tricks. No stepping into the glow. Just eyes open. Just watching. You don't tell Miss Ardella. She's asleep, you hope. Or knitting a funeral scarf for someone who hasn't broken the law yet. You step out into the cool night. Duskhaven is at its most honest in the dark. None of the daylight charm, none of the forced pleasantries. Just stillness and streetlights. You turn down a lane you hadn't noticed before. No sign, no name. But there's something about the curve of it, the way the lamps align like vertebrae along a giant spine that pulls you in, like memory disguised as architecture. Halfway down, you spot something wedged under a bench, a rolled-up newspaper, yellowed and damp. You pick it up. Duskhaven Herald, February 29th, 1912. Your pulse quickens. You sit on the bench, not under the light, and unroll it with care. Most of the ink is faded. The ads are for horseshoes and formal gloves. But halfway down the second page, you find it. Tragedy on Rayleigh Street. Local man, Leon Curtis, age 40, was found deceased beneath municipal gaslight post number 7 on the morning of February 28th. Witnesses report strange flickering of lights the night prior, followed by the absence of animal sounds, a detail described by some as eerily total. Mr. Curtis is said to have been a quiet man, no known ailments or enemies. Town council has called an emergency meeting to address concerns of public safety regarding sleeping near municipal lighting fixtures. No foul play suspected. Cause of death unknown. You sit still for a long time after reading it. Not because the article is shocking, by now you expected as much, but because scrawled in pencil across the margin in someone's shaky hand are the words, "He was only the first." You look around, the street is empty, but the bench you're on, it's tilted slightly, one leg lower than the others, as if it's been used too many times, as if too many tired souls stopped here to rest, but never made it past. You stand quickly. You keep walking. That's when you see the plaque. Small, brass, set into the base of a lamppost. You almost miss it. You lean in. It reads, "Dedicated to the memory of those lost in sleep. Town Council, 1913. Not died, not passed, just lost." Your skin crawls. You suddenly feel watched, but not by something nearby, by something above, not in the air, not in the lamps, but behind the light. You hurry back to the inn. This time, you go through the side entrance. Your boots leave scuff marks on the floor. You don't care. Inside, Miss Ardella is waiting in the hall. She says nothing but hands you a bundle of paper, typed, crisp. You blink. What's this? Minutes from the emergency council meeting, she says. I'm not allowed to share them, but I'm old and bored, and I've always liked troublemakers. You nod, your throat tight. Thank you. She raises a hand. Read them, and then decide if you still want to leave. You retreat to your room and unfold the papers. The minutes are stiffly written as official things tend to be, but the words burn. Town Council Emergency Session, March 1st, 1912. Present: Mayor Carrick, Councillor Hemsley, Councillor DuPont, Councillor Wake, Recorder. Ellis Mayor opens session with summary of events on Raleigh Street. Recorder Ellis reports no external wounds, no physical trauma, no disease. Councillor Hemsley reports burning seen in eyes of the deceased, though no evidence of heat. Councillor Wake reports testimony from child who witnessed a man made of flickers near post number 7. DuPont motions for temporary halting of night patrols. Denied. Wake suggests cessation of lamplight use entirely. Carrick warns this may awaken worse. Council agrees to draft ordinance to prohibit sleep within radius of any lamp. All in favor. 4 adjourned at 2:13 a.m. A man made of flickers. You whisper it aloud. What kind of town documents that and still functions like nothing happened? You notice something else on the last page, a hand-drawn diagram. It shows the lamp posts, their radii of light, overlapping like spider webs. The center of the pattern, like a pupil in an eye, is marked with a red X. You trace it with your finger. It's the square. You were there earlier today. You sit back in your chair. So it wasn't just about Leon Curtis. The lights themselves, these antique sentinels, were arranged with intention. And that pattern? It's not just for coverage. It's to keep something contained or fed. You think of the lights humming, of how they never break, of how no one dares sleep beneath them, because something sleeps within them or waits. The law isn't protection, it's containment. You put the papers down. You've been thinking all along that the danger was sleeping under the streetlights. But what if the real danger is waking something that sleeps inside them? And every time someone dreams too close, it stirs and remembers it's hungry. You dream that night, whether you want to or not. You're standing in the town square, but everything is reversed. Colors muted, sky dark, though the lamps blaze like miniature suns. Every beam feels solid, like a pillar you could lean against. And in the center of it all, curled beneath one of the glowing posts, is a man, Leon Curtis. You know it's him, even though he never turns. He's lying in perfect stillness, like a statue forgotten by time. His eyes are wide, open, unblinking. The pupils burn like candle wicks, and above him, wrapped around the lamp, is something else. It's not a creature exactly. It's more like smoke caught in a jar, flickering and writhing against the glass. The light pulses with it, in rhythm, like they breathe together. Then it notices you. Your feet won't move. It slides down the post, not fast, not crawling, just dripping downward in strands of light and shadow. It reaches for you, not with arms, but with illumination, bathing you in a heatless glare that makes your skin itch, your thoughts scatter. And then you wake, not with a gasp, with a whisper. You don't know what you whispered, only that your mouth moved and your ears caught nothing. It's still dark outside. You don't dare look out the window. The next morning, Miss Ardella sets your tea down without a word. You don't drink it. She doesn't expect you to. Instead, she says, "You've seen it, haven't you?" You nod. She nods back. "Most don't make it that far," she says. "They break or bolt." You ask her again, this time more gently, about the stories, the ones that came after the law was passed. You already know about Leon Curtis, and the council minutes, and the storm. But something changed after that. Something that made the town not just enforce the law, but worship it. She sighs, then begins. After the law was passed, things were quiet. For a while, no one tested it. Folks obeyed. No one even walked at night unless absolutely necessary. She leans back, hands folded. But a few months later, a boy sleepwalked, just 12 years old, made it all the way out the door, across 2 streets, and curled up under the lamp on Maple Avenue. You don't breathe. They found him in the morning, not dead, not sick, but gone, inside. You furrow your brow. His eyes blinked, his body breathed, but that was it. He didn't talk, didn't move, just stared up at the light, like it was still shining down on him, even in full daylight. Miss Ardella lowers her voice. His family had to cover every bulb in the house. He'd scream if they turned on so much as a flashlight. Did he ever recover? No, she says simply. He still sits in his room, last I heard. His sister feeds him soup once a day, only speaks in numbers, all of them ending in 7. You say nothing. After that, the town stopped chalking it up to coincidence, she continues. We hired watchers, midnight patrols, volunteer-robed monks practically. They'd make rounds with lanterns just to make sure no one had fallen asleep where they shouldn't. And they were effective? She chuckles bitterly. Not really. They started disappearing. You blink. Disappearing how? One by one. First their patrol routes changed, then their reports stopped making sense. They'd draw maps of the town where all the streets spiraled inward. They'd talk about how the lamps were breathing better now. They didn't vanish exactly. They just walked into the light one night and never came out. She turns to look out the window. So we replaced them with watchers who never stepped into the glow. That's when the robes started. You remember the figures from earlier nights. Silent, long-cloaked shapes moving through the streets, avoiding the edges of the golden circles. Who are they? No one knows. Some say they're town volunteers. Some think they're the ones who did fall asleep, but got left halfway between, not dead, not dreaming, just echoing. You shiver. Why keep the law at all then, you ask? Why not shut off the lights? Tear them down? We tried, she says, eyes narrowing. And then she tells you about the Bright Rebellion. In 1921, decades after Curtis's death, a group of young citizens, students, artists, newcomers, had enough of living in fear. They declared the law absurd, backward, a relic of superstition. They wore glow-in-the-dark sashes, slept with lanterns by their beds. One even hosted a sleep-in under the stars directly beneath 6 street lamps at once. Only 3 of them woke up. One walked home covered in burns with no visible wounds. One was found whispering, turn it off, on repeat until he tore his vocal cords. The last vanished entirely. Only her shoes remained, perfectly placed under the post on Dreamer's Alley. The rebellion ended that same week. No one spoke of it again. But the lamps remained. You ask Miss Ardella why they never simply unplugged them. She nods toward the ceiling. Power company tried in 1936. Cut the grid during maintenance. All the homes went dark. And the lamps? She smiles grimly. Still on. You don't ask who pays the electric bill. You already know. No one. That night, you make one more walk. Not far. Just up the street. The lamps greet you now like old friends. Each hum is a voice. Each glow a memory. You feel drawn to them. Not with fear anymore, but with curiosity. And yes, a little longing. You want to know what they see when we sleep. What lives behind the light. But you keep walking. You're not ready yet. Not tonight. Because one day, maybe, you will sit beneath a lamppost in Duskhaven and close your eyes. And maybe, just maybe, you won't wake up empty. You wake up with a question. Not dread this time. Not terror, not even curiosity. Just a soft, persistent itch in your mind that you can't quite reach. Who turns them on? You've walked the streets every evening since you arrived. The lamps never flicker into life while you watch. They're simply on the moment the sun dips below the roof lines. No wires buzz, no switches click, no timers tick. They illuminate the town like it's part of a stage set, and the audience has just arrived. And if they do come on automatically, well, then who installed them? You begin to ask around. The grocer shrugs. Been like that since before I was born. The librarian smiles faintly. That's not the kind of knowledge we keep in books. A little girl selling lemonade on a crooked corner giggles and says, My grandpa says they light up when the lamps get lonely. You almost ask Miss Ardella again, but you don't. Something tells you that even she has no answer for this one, so you wait. At exactly 6:43 p.m., you take a seat on the front step of the inn. Sunset is slow tonight. Clouds streak the horizon in thick bands of pink and rust. A wind picks up, rustling dry leaves across the cobblestones like skittering thoughts. 6:44. Still no lights. You squint at the lamppost across the street. It stands perfectly still. Then something flickers. Not the light, but the air around it, like heat rising from asphalt. And suddenly, the bulb is on. No delay, no in-between, just instant illumination. You check the others, one by one, in a neat little wave down the street. Each globe flares to life. Not warm, not cool, something in between, like being stared at from behind glass. The hairs on your arm rise, because this time you hear something. Just as the light above your head comes on, there's a soft, almost imperceptible noise. Not the buzz of electricity, not the hiss of gas, but a breath, one long exhale, just one, and not yours. You look up, nothing there. Of course. Except, yes, there. For a split second, a distortion, a shape behind the glow. You blink. It's gone. The rest of the night passes slowly. You keep expecting someone to come to your room, knock on the door, whisper through the keyhole. But no one does. Even the watchers don't pass your window tonight. In the morning, the lights are off. Again, you didn't see them fade. You just noticed they're gone, like a dream you were sure you remembered until the moment you opened your eyes. So you go back to the square. Again. This time, not to read, not to ask, just to watch. You sit on a bench facing the statue of Mayor Carrick, the man who signed City Code 73-D. His bronze face looks stern but almost amused, like he knew something you didn't, maybe still does. You look past him, up to the largest lamppost in town, and that's when you notice the watchers. 3 of them, hooded, robed, walking the edges of the square. They move slowly, deliberately, never stepping into the light. You recognize one, the tallest. You saw him 2 nights ago near the bakery. But the other 2, their walk is strange, not stiff, not human really, like wind animating fabric, as if the bodies inside are only there to keep the robes from collapsing. They stop, all 3, right at the perimeter of the central light. Then, in perfect unison, they lower their heads, not to you, to the lamppost. You wait, frozen. It's broad daylight, and yet the air feels heavy, as if the sun is being filtered through something denser than clouds. One of the watchers raises an arm and points. To the bench beside you. You stand instantly, but there's no one there. Only a pair of shoes, worn, adult-sized, brown leather, laces neatly tied, resting under the bench, right at the edge of where the streetlight's glow would fall if it were nighttime. You glance at the watchers. They're gone, vanished. No sound, no footfalls, no gusts of wind. You want to laugh, you almost do. But the shoes bother you. They weren't there yesterday. You're sure of it. And something about their placement, it's too careful, not discarded, arranged. You pick one up. It's warm, like someone just stepped out of it. You drop it fast and walk away. Back at the inn, Miss Ardella is mending a curtain. She doesn't look up as you enter. "There'll be a visitor tonight," she says. You freeze. "What kind of visitor?" "Someone who broke the law," she says, "but not in the way you think." You wait, but she offers no more. So you do the only logical thing left to do. You stay up. The hours stretch. Midnight comes and goes. The town is utterly silent, save for the occasional rustle of trees or the distant clink of metal from the inn's old boiler. Then, at 2:07 a.m., you hear the front door creak. Slowly, deliberately. You tiptoe to the stairwell, careful not to let it groan. From the shadows above, you watch. A figure steps into the inn, a man, late 30s, hair matted, clothes torn, like he's crawled through bramble and fog. And his eyes, they shine, not reflectively, not naturally. They glow, just faintly, with the same golden tint as the street lamps. He doesn't speak. He stands in the doorway, breathing as if it hurts, swaying slightly. Then he turns to the front desk and places something down, a matchbox. The innkeeper appears, not surprised. She takes the box, opens it, and counts. 12 matches, all burned. She nods to him. Then she says, so softly you almost don't hear, "You stayed awake the whole time." He doesn't respond. She points to the hallway. Room 11. He disappears down the corridor. You wait. You can't sleep. You don't even lie down. You just sit on the edge of the bed, watching the door. But no one knocks. In the morning, room 11 is empty. Not vacated. Empty. Like no one ever stayed there at all. You start asking for names. Not politely. Not softly. You want to know who that man was. The one with the glowing eyes. The matchbox. The vanished room. You march to Miss Ardella as the sun tries to claw its way through the thick gray haze outside. Room 11, you say. Who was he? She looks up from her knitting with a cool gaze. Does it matter? You bite your tongue. Yes, you say. No, she replies. It doesn't. Because if you stay here long enough, you'll stop needing names for the ones who return. You'll just learn to count their matches. She rises, slowly, joints cracking like old door hinges, and walks past you. There are others who remember, she says. You just have to go where the lights don't reach. You follow her to the back of the inn, a thin hallway you hadn't noticed before. It smells of wood rot and peppermint. She points to a narrow door at the end. You'll find what you're looking for in Dreamer's Alley. Where is that? You'll know it when you stop seeing your own shadow. She hands you a folded piece of paper, yellowed and marked with ink that's smudged in places. A hand-drawn map, but odd. It doesn't match the layout of the town as you know it. It only makes sense when you walk it, she says. You step outside. The town is more awake than usual. Shops open, people out. But no one seems to see you. They don't nod. They don't meet your eyes. They just move through the streets like marionettes tugged by a half-asleep puppeteer. You follow the map's crude arrows, past the schoolhouse, through an alley of rusted garbage bins, and behind the bakery's crumbling fence. Then something shifts. Not just the air, but the light. The shadows no longer trail behind you. They hover near your feet. Undecided. As if they're no longer sure which way to fall. You found it. Dreamer's Alley. The walls are close here. Too close. Buildings lean in, whispering secrets in broken brick and boarded windows. No lamps, no wires. Just dim ambient gray from the sky above. This is where they sleep. Tucked into corners, beneath burlap sacks and faded quilts, lie the dreamers. Not homeless, not exactly. You can feel the difference. They're too still. Their breathing is soft but heavy, like they're exhaling dust. Each one lies within the borders marked by sidewalk chalk, drawn circles around them, some pristine, some smudged, as if the chalk wards off something invisible. You crouch beside the nearest one, a woman, middle-aged, arms folded across her chest. Her lips move, not quite forming words. Then you realize she's humming. The tune is familiar. You've heard it from the lampposts. Then you notice the notebook beside her, leather-bound, weather-worn. You hesitate, then you open it. Sleep reports, entry 327. He came closer tonight. I didn't look. I wanted to, but I didn't. The light curled over my toes, but I stayed still. The line held, but the hum changed. It's learning me. You flipped the page. Entry 328. He whispered someone else's name in my ear. Not mine, but I answered anyway. There are dozens of entries like that, each one dated, each one more cryptic than the last. Drawings, too, of lamps with faces, of streets that spiral inwards, of beds floating above the town like balloons. You feel sick, because you recognize one of the sketches. It's the lamppost across from the inn, but it's drawn as a mouth. a wide-open maw, swallowing dreams like jelly beans. You close the notebook and tuck it back beside the woman. Then you walk deeper into the alley. There are more sleepers. Some twitch, some smile. One weeps silently in her sleep, tears trickling into the folds of her scarf. Then you see him, the boy, no more than 7, curled beneath a pile of newspapers. His fingers grip a flashlight, dead. You kneel beside him and tilt your head to listen. He's whispering numbers. 47, 87, 7, 7, 7. Each number delivered like a prayer or a lock combination. You don't touch him. You walk on. At the far end of the alley, where the ground curves slightly and the buildings open into a cul-de-sac of crumbling cobble, you find the central dreamer. He's different. No chalk circle, no covering. He lies directly on the stone, face up, eyes closed. A sign hangs from a hook above him, hand-painted. I slept in the light. I speak when you dream. His lips part as you approach. No breath escapes, but you hear him, not through your ears, through your bones. Closer, he says, inside your marrow. You step forward. The sky dims, even though the sun was just overhead. A hush rolls over the buildings like fog. You want answers, the voice in your ribs says, but you're asking the wrong questions. You crouch beside him. What are the right questions? There's a pause. Then, why do the lights need us to sleep outside them? You blink. That's not what you expected. I thought it was dangerous. Only if you break the pattern, the voice says. The law isn't to protect you from the light. It's to keep your dreams from entering it. Why? But he's already gone. His lips are still. His chest doesn't move. You stand. And only now, only as you step backward, do you realize what you haven't seen. No lampposts. Not one. You turn in a slow circle. Dreamer's Alley has no streetlights, no poles, no wiring, no bulbs. And suddenly it hits you. This isn't an alley. It's a hole, a wound in the grid. The one place in the entire town where the light has no say. That's why they sleep here. Not to defy the law, but to escape what the law contains. You walk back into the light, and the moment you do, you see your shadow again. But it doesn't move like it used to. It lags half a step behind, and you're not sure it's still yours. You don't go back to the inn, not right away. Your legs carry you toward the riverbank, where the trees lean low and the water runs slow and thick, like it's half asleep too. Duskhaven doesn't advertise its river. It's not on the tourist map, if the town even has one. But it's there, winding quietly behind the houses, behind the stories. And there, beside a willow drooping into the current, you find something odd. A protest sign, warped from rain. You lean closer. We deserve to dream in the light. The letters are stenciled in red, faded, but furious. There's another nearby. It reads, "No more shadows, no more fear." And another, "The Bright Sleep Rebellion, 1973. Your breath catches. You sit in the grass, feeling the brittle weight of forgotten history settle in your lap. The Bright Sleep Rebellion. Miss Ardella mentioned it, but she never said it happened again. Apparently, it did. And here, where protest signs once stood, you now find nothing but silence and scattered debris. Old thermoses, a cracked flashlight, a shirt with iron-on lettering so faded it might have said anything. You walk upriver, and that's when you find the memorial. It's carved into stone, not a grave, not exactly. Just a wide slab set against the earth, angled slightly, as if someone meant for it to be read while sitting in the grass. The inscription is chiseled deep. In memory of the 12 who dared to dream. Beneath it, 12 names. Some long, some short, none familiar. A 13th name is scratched in by hand. Marie. That's it. Just Marie. No last name. No date. You sit. Because how could you not? The wind shifts, and you imagine what it must have been like, the protest. Flashlights held high like torches, pillows dragged into the square, lawn chairs lined up beneath the lamps. Voices rising, chanting slogans nobody remembers now, daring the light to do its worst. And the light? It answered. Not with violence, with silence. It watched, and when the town woke up the next morning, 12 beds were empty. No sign of struggle, no footprints, no notes. Just a faint hum in the lamps overhead, like they were satisfied. You try to picture the rebellion ending in fury, in flames, in shouting. But no, it ended in absence. You walk back into town as dusk settles. The lights blink on again, not with drama, not with fanfare, just presence. By the time you return to the inn, there's a new sign in the window. Closed for reflection. You knock anyway, no answer. You check the door, unlocked. Inside, it's exactly as it was, except quieter. Somehow, the fire's gone cold. The tea kettle rests on the stove, dry. Miss Ardella's knitting basket is still there, but the yarn is unwound. The needles are gone. Your room is untouched, but on the bed is a box, small, wooden, no lock. Inside, a note, handwritten. You saw the alley, you saw the dreamers. Now it's time to see the rest. Beneath the note, a key, brass, ornate, and a matchbox. 12 matches. You pocket both and leave without a sound. The key leads to the only place you haven't dared to go, the tower. You've seen it from a distance, rising from the hill behind town, above the graveyard, shrouded in mist. No road leads directly to it. No signs mark its existence, and no one talks about it. But you walk. You follow the bend of the river, past the willow and the protest signs, up the narrow dirt path that seems to grow from nothing. The grass along the way is yellowed, trampled, as if many have come before, but none have returned with stories worth telling. The tower looms. Gray stone, one window, no lights. Yet the moment you step onto the hilltop, the world seems to lean away. The air grows thin. The hum from the lampposts fades. And now, for the first time since you arrived in Duskhaven, the silence is complete. You insert the key. The door opens. Inside, darkness. Pure, unshaped. You light a match. It flares to life, illuminating old spiral stairs, books crumbling in forgotten shelves, the suggestion of writing on the walls, symbols, sigils, maps drawn in soot. You climb. Step by step, the air thickens, like honey pulled across your throat. Your ears pop. Time feels loose, unanchored. You think of the dreamers, the numbers, the whispers. At the top, the room is circular, and in the center, a lantern, just one, hanging from a chain, unlit. You stare at it, then you take out the matchbox. You strike one, hold it to the lantern, nothing. Strike another, still nothing. You try the third, and this time, the flame vanishes midair, snuffed not by wind, but by will. You don't understand, until you look up. Carved above the lantern, in letters so faint they can only be read in peripheral vision, is a phrase. Only the dream can light the flame. You sit on the cold stone floor. You close your eyes, you breathe, and you wait. You don't know how long, but eventually you feel it. Not sleep. Not exactly. More like slipping into a story where you're both the reader and the page. And in that in-between place, the lantern flares, golden, silent, and the light that fills the room doesn't come from flame or filament. It comes from memory. Yours. Duskhavens. Every person who ever broke the law and survived to remember. The matchbox grows warm in your pocket. The key vanishes. And far below, one more lamppost lights itself. For you. Just one. Waiting. You return from the tower changed, not in a way that anyone would notice, if there were still anyone around to notice. The town seems quieter now, not emptier, exactly, but paused, as if everyone has taken a long breath and hasn't exhaled yet. The shop windows are dim, the sidewalk swept too clean. Even the ever-present lamplight feels thinner somehow, like butter scraped over too much bread. But you're not afraid anymore. You should be. You know that. You've seen too much, read too many forgotten ordinances, stepped too close to dreamers who whisper numbers in their sleep, felt your own shadow hesitate behind you. And yet, you feel calm, because now you understand something they never wrote down in the dusty minutes or carved into memorial stone. The light isn't hunting you. It's watching you. It always has been. And you've started to wonder, what if it's not malevolent? What if it's just lonely? You think back to the bright sleep rebellion, not the version on the posters or in fading memories, but the quiet one that happened every time someone dared to carry a pillow into the square, or fell asleep near a post while waiting for a ride home, or sleepwalked without knowing what rules they were breaking. Not rebels with slogans, accidental dreamers. And for each of them, the law made no exception. You start looking for records of those people, the ones not famous enough to make memorial stones. You begin at the library. There's an archive downstairs, basement level. You weren't allowed in on your first day, but after the tower, no one stops you now. The librarian nods without meeting your eyes as you descend the narrow steps. You feel her watching your back as you disappear. It smells like mildew and regret. Wooden cabinets line the walls, each labeled with small brass plaques: census, obituaries, property deeds, violations. You pull the drawer labeled Infractions 73-D. Inside, files. Hundreds of them. Each one contains a name, a date, a location. Violation of Code 73-D. Some are stamped paid. Others are stamped unresolved. Some have no stamps at all. You flip through them. It feels wrong, like going through someone's diary. But these people, they've already been forgotten. You pause at one. Name: Ellis Marrow. Date: May 7th, 1973. Location: corner of Teal and Bright Street. Notes: subject found sleeping beneath light, post number 14. Claimed to be testing the limits of the ordinance. Ticket issued. Subject did not appear in court. No further sightings recorded. You pull another. Name: Deaver Lane. Date: November 2nd, 1968. Location: Church Steps, West Side. Notes: claimed to have fallen asleep while praying. Awoke with minor burns on fingertips. Said the hymn was unfinished. Declined further questioning. And another. Name: Marie, no last name listed. Date: June 21st, 1973. Location: Town Square. Notes: one of 12 involved in unsanctioned overnight demonstration. Disappeared after midnight. Shoes found beneath post. File remains open. You shudder. The same Marie scratched into the stone. You close the drawer and sit on the cold floor. 12 dreamers. And how many more? You begin to understand. The law isn't just old. It isn't just strange. It's haunted. Not by ghosts, but by data. by the repeated act of enforcing a punishment on something that might never have been a crime. Because if the streetlights need us to stay away while we sleep, what happens when someone doesn't? The light doesn't lash out. It accepts. It absorbs. It remembers. And then it waits for the next dreamer to forget. You flip the page of the last file you open and find something scribbled on the back in pencil. They say the law keeps us safe, but it only keeps us separate. It hits you harder than you expect, because suddenly you see the whole system, Duskhaven's strange ballet of silence, enforcement, and memory. The laws, the watchers, the matchboxes. They weren't designed to punish. They were designed to contain sadness. As if the entire town has spent the last century trying not to feel what it lost. And that's when you realize the town never fully recovered from the first light sleeper, not Curtis, not the boy, the first one who fell asleep under the lamppost and didn't return as themselves. From that moment on, the town declared war on dreams, but it lost. It lost slowly, in whispers and chalk lines and fading matches. You climb back upstairs. The librarian is gone. You walk through the front door and see the lamppost lining the street, tall, waiting. And you make a decision. You will break the law, not in defiance, in grace. You walk to the square. No crowd, no fanfare. Just the soft tick of time unwinding. You sit on the bench beneath post number 7, the same one where Leon Curtis laid his head over a century ago. You stretch out slowly, letting your back sink against the curve of the wood, your eyes tracing the cracks in the sidewalk. And then you lie down, directly in the light. You expect cold, but the glow is warm, not burning, not biting, comforting. A hum begins, faint at first, like an engine idling in the distance. But soon, you recognize it. It's the tune the dreamers hum in their sleep. It's the tower's silence. It's the sigh of a law no longer sure why it exists. You close your eyes and wait. But this time, no watchers come. No matches burn. No whispers follow. Only one thing happens. The light above you flickers, not out of threat, out of hesitation. And for the first time, it dims. Just slightly. Enough to let you dream. You do not die. You don't vanish, melt, burn, or unravel like a poorly kept secret. You simply wake up, still beneath the lamppost, still on the bench, still entirely, boringly human. Only now the light above you feels different. Not gentler, not softer, just aware. As if, by sleeping under its glow and returning unchanged, you've disrupted something, quietly but fundamentally. A ritual undone, a loop unlooped. You sit up. Nothing crackles. No alarm sounds. No invisible hands yank you away. The street is empty. The inn is shuttered. Even the air tastes different, like the moment before a thunderclap. Charged, but holding back. You begin to walk. The lamps hum as usual. But now the tone is more discordant, like an orchestra tuning itself mid-performance. A flicker here, a flicker there. Minor fluctuations, almost like breathing or thinking. Your presence has introduced static. You broke the law, and nothing happened. But the fact that nothing happened is the most dangerous thing of all. Because the people of Duskhaven didn't build this system out of superstition. They built it out of pattern. And when the pattern changes, even slightly, the town trembles. You feel it in your feet. Cobblestones that seem a half-inch off their old positions. Buildings that lean a degree too far in the other direction. Like the whole place is adjusting itself around you. You return to Dreamer's Alley. It's not the same. The sleepers are still there, but their chalk lines are gone, not erased, just absorbed. No outlines, no borders. And yet they still sleep, untouched, unbothered. You kneel by the boy again. He isn't whispering numbers anymore. Now, he's saying words, clear ones. Over and over. He woke. He dreamed. He stayed. You don't know if he's talking about you, or the light, or both. Back in the square, you spot movement near the mayor's statue. A figure, tall, robed. One of the watchers. Only this one moves differently. No rigid pace. No avoidance of lamplight. It walks through the glow, slowly, deliberately. And then, it stops in front of you. The robe falls back. You recognize the man. The one from room 11. The man with the 12 burned matches. But his eyes no longer glow. They're soft now, human, sleepy. He smiles, not broadly, not triumphantly, just enough. And he says, "You rewrote it." You blink. "Rewrote what?" "The story," he says. "The law. The dream I just slept," you say. "No one just sleeps in Duskhaven," he replies. Then he hands you something, a book, thin, leather-bound. The pages inside are blank, but the cover has a title embossed in gold, The Dream of Light. You look up, he's gone, no footsteps, no farewell, just the memory of a smile and the faint hum of the lamppost above you. You walk, and as you walk, you begin to notice changes, subtle ones. A porch light clicks on across town. A woman stands beneath it, sipping coffee, her eyes closed in peace, not fear. A man dozes on a bench outside the general store, his hat tilted over his eyes, a dog curled beside him, both bathed in golden glow. The inn sign is flipped. Vacancy, no curfew tonight. You check the time. 2:13 a.m. The same time the council meeting adjourned over a century ago. But this night isn't ending in panic or ordinance. This night ends in stillness. You return to your room. The matchbox is still on the windowsill, now with only one match left. The others are gone, as if burned without fire. You strike the final one, just to see. It flares silently. You hold it to the oil lamp on your bedside table. The flame catches. You turn off the overhead light and sleep in a room half lit, half dark. No law broken, no law obeyed. Just peace. The next morning, you find a flyer on the doorstep, printed fresh, bright blue border, white paper, Duskhaven Town Forum. Let's talk about the lights. Open floor, no penalties. Bring a blanket. Public dreaming encouraged. You smile. They're learning. Not because they want to, but because they have to. Patterns break. Dreams evolve. And sometimes, the only way to escape a curse is to nap through it and wake up on your own terms. You visit Miss Ardella's room. It's empty, except for a slip of paper pinned to the window. Gone walking. Be back when it's safe to sleep in the sun. You take one last walk through town. The lampposts no longer buzz. They hum, yes, but with something new behind it. Not menace, not hunger, curiosity. You pass a woman scribbling in a notebook under a light. You pass a man painting a lamppost with tiny flowers, laughing as he goes. The law hasn't been repealed yet, but it's weakening. Not because someone shouted, but because someone rested. You leave Duskhaven at dawn. Not because you're fleeing, not because you've seen too much, because you've finally seen enough. The bus is late, but you don't mind. You sit on the bench at the edge of town, yes, under a street light. No one stops you. No watchers appear. No notes are passed under teacups. The light glows steadily above you. But it doesn't feel like a warning anymore. It feels like a witness. You think back to everything. The whispers, the watchers, the man in room 11, The ghostly lamplighter, the dreamers, and the law that told an entire town to never fall asleep near comfort. And you realize something. Duskhaven was never cursed. It was just scared. Scared of what it couldn't explain. Of what it saw in the eyes of the first sleeper who didn't wake up quite the same. So they wrote rules instead of elegies. Ordinances instead of understanding. They punished sleep. But you rewrote that pattern with a nap. The bus arrives in a puff of gravel dust and diesel sighs. You step aboard. The driver nods and says nothing. You sit halfway back against the window, where you can still see the outline of Duskhaven's rooftops and its ever-patient street lamps fading behind the mist. There's a boy across the aisle. He's maybe 10. He holds a handheld game console but isn't playing. He's watching you. After a few miles, he leans over and whispers, "Is it true? You slept under the light? You blink? You're from Duskhaven?" He shrugs. "My mom was. She told me stories. Said if I ever visited, I should keep my eyes down at night and never look straight into the glow." You smile gently. Sometimes, looking straight into the glow is the only way to see what's behind it. He seems to think about this, then goes back to his game, but with a new quietness behind his eyes. Not fear, just wonder. You wonder how far the story will go. And then you wonder how many towns are like Duskhaven. How many other laws have gone unquestioned for so long? They became myths disguised as policies. How many cities live in fear of their own street lamps, their own shadows, their own dreams? You pull the leather-bound book from your bag. The Dream of Light. You flip through the still blank pages, and you decide right there on the bus to start writing. Not in fear, in memory. You write about Leon Curtis, about the Watchers and the Dreamers and the boy who whispered sevens, about Miss Ardella, who broke more rules than she let on, about the tower and the lantern, and the way the light changed the moment you stopped resisting. You write it all down, not for proof, but for peace, because someday someone else will find a matchbox with 12 burned tips and no explanation. Someone else will dream of flickering shadows and wake up not quite themselves, and maybe your story will help them feel less alone. The bus rolls on. Hours pass. Towns blur past your window like streaks in watercolor. You get off at a quiet station with too many vending machines and too few people. You walk until you find a diner that smells like waffles and old coffee. And there, in the corner, beneath a plain overhead bulb that hums just faintly, you see a woman sleeping in a booth. Her hand rests on an open book. The Dream of Light. Your breath catches. She's already dreaming. You quietly pay for her coffee and leave a matchbox beside it. 12 fresh matches, unburned, untouched, waiting. You don't say a word. Because stories this strange don't need permission to continue. They only need someone willing to sleep where others are afraid. There's one more place you need to see. Not a location exactly, more of a pattern. You realize this as you step back into the world outside Duskhaven. Everything looks normal. Cities buzz, cars honk, cafes hum with conversation. But now you see the lights differently. Every street lamp, every fluorescent bulb, every flickering neon sign. They're not just utilities, they're boundaries. And you wonder, quietly, deeply, how many of us obey invisible laws we've never even read? You start collecting them. The little signs, the unspoken rules, the municipal whispers tucked in the footnotes of urban life. You find a town in Oregon where it's illegal to sleep in cemeteries. You meet a woman in Arkansas who swears the old gaslight district will turn you inside out if you nap too close to the riverbank. In Georgia, a man tells you about a stretch of road where the lamps blink in Morse code when no one's watching. None of these stories are verified. None need to be. Because you know better now. You understand that laws aren't always printed in ink. Sometimes they're written in silence, in tradition, in shadows cast by bulbs no one installed. And the more you listen, the more the world reveals its secret nighttime rules. You start writing again, not just in the dream of light, but on napkins, matchboxes, receipts. You begin to map things that don't want to be mapped. And slowly, you notice the change. Not in the world, in you. You sleep deeper now. You wake remembering your dreams. And they're different. Less chaotic. More architectural. You dream of towers with lanterns that burn without heat. Of figures in robes who walk without fear beneath stars that hum. Of street lamps that bow their heads when you pass. And most nights, you dream of Duskhaven. But it's changed too. In your dreams, the lights still glow, but they don't judge. The watchers sit with the dreamers. The mayor's statue smiles. The chalk lines have turned to garden paths, winding through lamp-lit groves. In one dream, you see Miss Ardella. She's younger now, laughing, holding hands with someone whose face you never quite see. She offers you a cup of tea that tastes like candlelight and old stories, and says only this: you made room for the light to rest. You wake with tears in your eyes, good tears. You pack your things again, the book, the matches, the map that only makes sense when you walk it. And then, one night, you find yourself standing at the edge of a city that doesn't yet know it's dreaming. You pause beneath a flickering lamp, not afraid, just respectful. You lie down beneath it. You close your eyes. You listen to the hum. You let it in. And when you sleep this time, you dream not of being watched, but of being welcomed. And so, dear sleeper, the lights dim around you now, not in warning, but in comfort. You've made it all the way through, not just the story of Duskhaven and its strange little ordinance, but through something older and quieter. The truth behind why we fear sleep in unfamiliar places. Why we hesitate to rest where others are watching. Why a simple glow from a street lamp can feel like both invitation and interrogation. But now, you know better. You've walked the crooked streets, listened to the hum beneath the silence, touched the chalk circles, and read the laws written between the lines. You've seen what happens when a town trades trust for control, when safety becomes a ritual and light becomes a cage. And yet, sleep came anyway, not to punish, to heal. Maybe the lesson isn't about breaking rules or rewriting ordinances. Maybe it's just this, that sometimes rest is resistance. That peace isn't something enforced, it's something offered, shared. So as you lie there now, wherever you are, beneath a quiet ceiling fan, curled in the corner of a couch, maybe even near a soft pool of lamplight, know that the story doesn't end here. It waits behind your eyes, in every place that dares to glow through the night. And if you dream of a town where sleep is forbidden, remember, your dreaming is the rebellion. You are the warm flicker in a watchful world, and you are never alone in the light. End of script. Sweet dreams.